Hello, and we're returning with 3 on Lights Out. It's been a while, but we're back at it again, this time with MLB Playoff Bubbles for the 2024 season. We got a little bit of spice towards the bottom for both the AL and the NL. It seems to be like a decent race between 4 to 5 teams, depending on how you look at it in the AL, and about, what is that, 4-ish teams, 4-ish teams in the NL, depending on how you look at it again, that have a shot realistically of potentially making the playoffs. We're going to kick things off with the American League. I'm going to go in order of the wild cards only. We're only going to talk wild cards, really. Maybe organically other things will come up, but primarily this is going to be wild cards. So you got the Baltimore Orioles with the number one wild card spot at 86 wins, followed by Detroit at 82, Kansas City at 82, and then the teams right below that, you have Minnesota at 81 wins and Seattle at 80. I guess technically the Red Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays are not eliminated, but I'm not really. I don't think we're going to really talk about them. So let's kick this off. Of these teams, it seems unlikely, but not impossible. The Orioles most likely will make it in. So if we have anything to say, we'll add that at the end. Let's talk mainly about Detroit, Kansas City, Minnesota, and Seattle. Of those 4 teams, who do you have, John, as your 2 final wildcard teams?
Final 2 right now, I would stick with the Kansas City Royals will get in, and I will say the Detroit Tigers on the backs of the Twins to finish off the season. They play the Marlins. That's an easy, should be a sweep. But then they face the Orioles, and they have not been great when they faced AL East teams this year. And when you face another playoff team right before the playoffs, it's not really a good look for them. And the Mariners, I just don't think they could even get in, especially because they face Houston, and Houston has whooped them all year long, basically. So I don't see them getting in.
Fair enough. Mongo?
Yeah, so you have to John's point, just to take it to the more extreme here, though, you have the Royals have 3 with the Nats here at some point. The Tigers have 3. Who'd you say they have? They have the White Sox. You have the Astros. Sorry, not the Astros. You have the Mariners have 3 with the A's. And who am I saying? The Twins have 3 with the Marlins, right? Yeah. So everybody has basically a free 3 wins here, so to speak, which means 3 is really all that's left to do some jockeying. So the Mariners, who are 2 behind 2 of these teams, you're absolutely right, John. The math just starts to get them before anything else. The Astros are arguably the team. The Astros and the Orioles here are arguably the 2 teams with the least amount to play for, because in theory, the Orioles can catch the Yankees if they went 6-0 and the Yankees went 0-6, but the Yankees end with 3 against the Pirates. You got to think the Orioles are thinking we're pretty safely locked into the 4. And the Astros are 5 behind the 2 and 5 ahead of the Mariners. They're not really going anywhere. But here's the problem, John, you said it. The Astros would love nothing more than to be the final nail in the Mariners' coffin. If this was just any random team that was where the Astros were positioned, I'd love what the Mariners have here. 3 against Oakland and 3 against one of the only teams with absolutely nothing to play for, but it's their rival this year. Houston came in definitely kind of pissed this year to begin with. The Rangers kind of stole the West from them last year, stole the Western Thunder last year. Obviously, they're not a contender this year. They got 2 injured. And so, the AL backup for grabs. So I don't see a world where Seattle can get in. The other thing, so I'm going to go Royals and Tigers here. I just think the Twins, they need Byron Buxton. They can't seem to get him healthy. For every time Zebby Matthews throws 6 scoreless innings, he throws 2 2/3 and gets shelled. They're just relying on too many inconsistencies. Meanwhile, the Royals 2-8 in their last 10. They should get some help with their schedule the rest of the way here. Which junk team do they have? Oh, they have the Nats, right? Yep. 5-8, even sounds. The odds should should kind of even themselves out. Do I think they could lose that series to Atlanta? Absolutely. But I think it's still enough to get in. I think the Tigers actually end up taking the 5 here with the easiest schedule. They pass the Royals, but I think the Royals are able to hold on. I know we're talking the AL right now, by the way, but the absolute money that controls this whole thing is the Met Atlanta series by far. If Atlanta is able to somehow sweep the Mets, or if the Mets are somehow to sweep Atlanta, that could change everything, right? You could be in a world theoretically where Atlanta has nothing to play for when they play those last 3 against the Royals too, which you do have to keep in mind here. But right now, I think because everyone has a real sweepable series in one of their last 2, I think we shoot par here with where these 4 teams are now. They just end up where they are.
That's fair. I will also keep Detroit in. I don't see a reason for them to not be in, but I'm going to spice things up. I'm going to say Seattle gets in that last spot. They are currently the hottest of the 3 teams, and that's not really much to say here. So I think that at least with that momentum should be able to help propel them. Houston might take plenty of pride in being that nail in the coffin, but they also want to make sure that they're ready and capable in the playoffs. So maybe they will be a bit more relaxed in those games. So I can see that benefiting Seattle just enough to the way they edge out Minnesota and Kansas City.
I think of the 4, we talked about those 4 ridiculous teams. Assuming the White Sox don't win 3 in a row here coming into Detroit and are trying to play to avoid breaking the 120, they've already got to 120 losses. We'll talk more about that later. Assuming they've already safely in the 120 somethings, they won't care at all. It doesn't matter how much the Marlins care. They are just so broken at this point with no pitching. Like, they really can't do a lot. You can imagine a world where the Nats are maybe the tiniest bit feisty of the 4 easy wins. If CJ Abrams gets back up there, he wants to prove, he made a mistake and he wants to prove himself. Those 4 young pitchers that they have want to leave no doubt that those 4 are the start of a rotation for next year. Luis Garcia needs to end on a strong note to guarantee he's batting somewhere in the top half of this lineup, because he doesn't want to be the guy batting 8th or 9th on a not that great team. Dylan Cruz, James Wood still playing like, they have nothing to lose. They're just enjoying their first experience. So they're easily the most feisty of this group, which again is just more of a detriment to Kansas City. That could, especially if Atlanta is right there, tied with the Mets, tied with the Diamondbacks. Kansas City, I think, has the most dangerous path by far. So I'll give you some credit there, Gilroy.
All right. And anything else you want to add, John?
With the Tigers, the Tigers really want to do something right now, and they did something right before, or this afternoon. They called up their number 1 prospect and the number 6 of all MLB, and Jackson Jobe. He has been phenomenal as a pitcher ever since he's gotten into the minor leagues this season. I know he was hurt for a little bit, but he pitched in 21 games, only 91 innings, but he pitched to a 2.36 ERA. When you look at his pitches, he has probably the best slider and changeup in the minor leagues right now, and he has a 60 fastball. Overall, he's a really good pitcher, and they're going to use him in the bullpen. So he's coming up, and he's an arm out there, so he'll help them in that wild card race.
Now, what's your thoughts, John, on using him in? Like, I know that he will be helpful, but what's your thoughts on him coming in as a bullpen pitcher, though?
Well, they used him in the bullpen ever since he got back from his injury. I like it. I don't think you can throw him into a start here right when you're in this wild card race. I think he's going to be fine. I think he'll thrive pitching in this bullpen because he has an arm and he's always been good at striking people out, and they need that in their bullpen. You saw it when they faced the Orioles. They went to 2 games that went into extra innings, and their arms were dead. They weren't striking anybody out. But him coming in the 7th, 8th inning to strike out a couple players will be fine for him.
Yeah, we've seen this before with young players. being used not necessarily as they'll be used in the future for a playoff run. Most recently it was batters that come to mind, but Evan Carter gave the Rangers a spark last year. Junior Caminero was up for all hands on deck for the Rays at the end of the year last year. And so this is not uncommon. And it also is, Detroit, for a team that is really trending in the right direction, has been surprisingly all in on this year. And I appreciate it. With all the turnover in the AL, why not take a shot? But they were not afraid to move on. Javi Baez basically, is just dead to them now. They've been significantly better since they moved on from Javi Baez. I love the confidence they had in bringing up Dylan Dingler. Bringing up a catcher in the middle of a run is always a dangerous move. They did not shy away from that. Young coming up, Jace Young coming up, another one they weren't afraid to bring in right in the thick of things, and they've gotten it done with their young guys. So why would you stop now? I really like what they've done in Detroit, and I really hope they get a chance to show off on the national stage, just because I think a good chunk, well above 95% of the MLB fans out there, have no idea what's happening in Detroit, and you'll be very impressed if you get to see them on the grand stage.
They also have some really good young outfielders too that everybody's going to start liking.
For sure.
Of these wild card teams, who will make the most noise, you think?
So other than the Orioles, out of Kansas City and the Royals, I originally picked the Royals, but I'm switching to the Tigers. The Tigers team right now, they look really good. Riley Green, he's basically become a superstar. First-time All-Star. Kerry Carpenter, when he's not striking out 35% of his at-bats, he's been phenomenal other than that. Trey Sweeney, the guy that that the Dodgers traded for Jack Flaherty, he's looked solid. He saved the game a couple days ago. That team looks great, and I've always now I'm going to say it here. I feel like Parker Meadows of the Tigers, their center fielder, he'll have like an Evan Carter type of postseason, but I don't think they're going to make it all the way.
Okay, I'll go.
I'm going to put on my Yankee fan hat for a moment here and say somehow, some way, the Astros are going to knock the Yankees out in the AL championship. It just, as a Yankee fan, I feel obligated to be bitter about that. I'm going to take the Yankee hat off, and I'm going to put the MLB moderator hat back on here for a second. I'm not going to lie. The Yankees are the team everyone should be most afraid of, which means if you are wild card one, you have you're on the Yankee side of the bracket. It's actually a little bit, in my opinion, it's actually a little bit easier, to be on the other side of that bracket. And so I actually don't, even though I think Baltimore, again, we've talked about this before, it's not a power ranking, it's a prediction show. I think the Orioles have a way tougher time making noise here. I do think I agree with John that Detroit is the best all-around team right now. If the Royals do get in, as I think they do, and Kilroy doesn't, but they did a good job of shoring up that bullpen, and there's no reason not to believe that Bobby Witt can't just, like Hideki Matsui in 2009, just straight up run Kansas City straight through the playoffs. In the playoffs, it's quick enough that one guy can do it. And just like, why do I think the Yankees are the team to fear? They have two guys, right? One is not much less than two, right? I think Kansas City, I would not want to see them. And Seattle can theoretically pitch their way through it, but I'm not afraid of Seattle's bullpen. Everything. It's just been such a freakish year up there. There was that play the other day where Julio Rodriguez dove his way into a caught stealing. It just seems like anything that can go wrong in Seattle does. And I certainly wouldn't want to face their pitching, but I think the rest of the AL contenders have enough quality at bats at the top of their order that you can get through their starters and get through them. So I think Kansas City and Detroit definitely, scare me more. I think they can make a little bit more noise out of that sixth spot, whoever ends up there, than if, Seattle or Minnesota were to end up there.
Well, as someone who casually follows the Seattle Mariners, I have zero faith in them. That organization is cursed. They can make the postseason and will accomplish nothing. Nothing.
And this year it feels even worse than normal. Some years you're like, how, they're straight up Buffalo Bills in it, right? How did that loss just happen? This year you're like, the losses are just happening. It just is. Like, if you're a Mariners fan, please comment below. Let me know if I'm wrong, but it really feels like the entire vibe out of Seattle is just, are we done yet? I know there's the diehards out there who could be 40 and 120 White Sox fans who would still believe, but I feel like the average Mariner spectator is just going, we're just along for the ride until someone knocks us out at this point.
That's fair. All right, let's switch to the National League. This one, you have the wild card teams are in number one wild card team is the San Diego Padres at 90 and 66. Then you have the Diamondbacks. Why would Cardinals? Jeez. The Diamondbacks at 87 wins. The New York Mets at 87 wins. And then you have really just the Braves. And then I guess technically, no, I'm pretty sure everyone else is out of it. So it's really just the Braves. Can the Braves catch up to the Mets? And let's in here. As someone who, as all three of us are from New Jersey, it is a very Mets thing to at this point not make it. And we have lots of Mets friends and acquaintances, and that if it were to happen, they would not be surprised, right? Like if the Mets were to collapse at this point and not make it in, no one's surprised, especially when you look at how this team was earlier in the year. I would not be, this team didn't feel like it should be where it is right now. If you look at how it was earlier in the year, they've obviously turned things around. This team does have, is showing some promise. I will say this: if the Braves do manage to make it into the wild card, they're my LeBron James of the Major League.
Yeah, rightfully so. And no reason you should. I mean, that order is deep. Chris Sale is what Bobby Witt is to hitters in the AL, right? You're absolutely right on that. John, you want to go first here, or you want me to take this side?
I'll go first here.
Go for it, John.
So with the Braves, I feel like the Braves will get in, but not off the back of the Mets not making it. I think the Mets will still make it. I think the Diamondbacks will be the team to fall out here. The Diamondbacks have a rough schedule coming up. They play 3 at the Giants, and they play 3 at the Padres to finish off the season. The Giants right now, they played spoiler in Baltimore. They swept the series in Baltimore, and they just took 2 out of 3 from the Royals. The Giants, they have no reason of winning. They shouldn't be winning, but they are. And that's the team, I feel like will give the Diamondbacks problems. With the Mets, if they do fall out, they fall out. But I don't think they are. And the Braves, their pitching staff has been great so far. And Chris Sale is on basically a Cy Young right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there, John. Here's the really unique part of this. Which of these 3 teams, and also here's why, if you're a Braves fan, here's your hope. And you're absolutely right, John. That's nothing to do with, they need to take care of business against the Mets, obviously. But here's the wild spark here. You got the Padre-Dodgers series coming up this week. And here's what happens. If you're a Braves fan, you're loving this. If the Padres sweep the Dodgers, even if they win the series, but if they sweep the Dodgers somehow, and they're 8-2 in their last 10, it's very possible. They're lightning hot. Now the Dodgers need to worry about the Brewers catching them. In order for the Brewers to catch them, who do the Brewers play last? The Mets. And now the Brewers are taking care of the Mets for the Braves. If the Dodgers sweep the Padres, now the Padres have to worry about the Diamondbacks catching them, so they need to win. And who would they beat to get there? The Diamondbacks. As long as the Padre-Dodgers series ends in a sweep, it is great for the Braves. Now, will it end in a sweep? Not necessarily. They're 2 good teams. You could easily imagine a world where they go 2-1. But even if the Padres take 2 and the Dodgers have to worry about the Brewers, if I'm the Mets, the Mets have 3 against the Braves, 3 against the Brewers, 2 teams that could easily be playing for something the rest of the way. Now, John, I am with you. I do think the Padres will have to fend off the Diamondbacks in some way. And I also think the Giants, hate their division rivals way too much. They're still they have nothing to play for other than pride, but they're a proud franchise. 2, I feel like the Giants are arguably one of the most what is going on their teams left on the board. They need to treat these 6 games seriously. They have so many guys playing for a job that everyone needs to care. And so I'm not necessarily saying they're going to come out of nowhere and finish the year 6-0, but you could imagine a world where they take 2 of 3 at home against the Diamondbacks. So I think the Braves have a ton of outs here. I think the Diamondbacks and Mets both have brutal schedules. And I think there's a world where even though the Mets and Braves play each other, if neither one sweeps the other, they can both catch the Diamond. Well, one's with the Diamondbacks already. They can both get past the Diamondbacks and get in.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, this is what you want with the end of the year to be. You want these games to matter. So it's nice to feel that these games do matter. That we have. This is what they did when they why they expanded the playoffs is to have this happen.
Right.
So, all right. What is the ceiling for the Orioles and the Padres?
Go ahead, John. You can take that one.
So what I have here is, so for the ceiling for the Orioles right now is you got to win this wild card series. You probably aren't going to be winning the division, and you are going to be playing either the Royals or the Tigers. Not the Orioles or the Tigers. The Royals or the Tigers. Mash your way through it. Your lineup is too good not to. You cannot worry about your pitching in that series. A 3-game series, you could easily mash your way through that entire series. But when it comes down to going to 5 to 7 games, you need to start worrying about your pitching. Your bullpen has to step it up. Your bullpen has been terrible ever since the All-Star break. Your starting pitching can hold up. You got Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez as your first 2. Those are 2 winnable games you have to win. Other than that, you need to get to the bullpen and start hitting.
Yeah, John, I agree completely. That's the formula. I just don't know if it's enough. I agree with you. To me, they're the heavy favorite in round 1. But then if they run into the Yankees, and again, this could be totally moot. If Cleveland somehow catches New York for the for the pennant, I mean, things totally change. But I do not trust a young Oriole team against a veteran Yankee team, and that's not just me saying that as a Yankee fan. We've seen Garrett Cole, right, just took it to a new level his last start out.
Yep.
Nestor Cortez has thrown a couple shutout appearances over the last month. He suddenly looks like he's a viable 3 or 4. We know Stroman's got that dog in him. He's ready to go. I get that there are bullpen questions, but Weaver taking the back of that thing has seemingly helped. Verdugo's looking a little more right. Chisholm's healthy. They're getting healthy bodies back. And, of course, Soto and Judge. Austin Wells has – giving him a chance to be an everyday player when Trevino was hurt was really a revelation for that kid. And there's no reason not to believe, the answer to how far can the Orioles go is until they hit the Yankees. I think meanwhile for the Padres, they're probably the 4. They could theoretically catch the Dodgers. But if they do, there's a real chance they become the 1 at that point, depending on how everyone else does. So if you're looking at a world where the Padres could actually possibly either 1, they'll be hosting the Braves or Mets coming cross country in that 4-5 matchup, or they'd go Diamondbacks then Dodgers, which even though they wouldn't be the home, the home team, that hasn't stopped the Dodgers from losing to an NL West foe the last like a billion years. I mean, I'm not afraid of the Dodgers if I'm the Diamondbacks or the Padres in the playoffs. And if the Padres can just either keep bringing East teams across the country, or if they can keep hosting their division rivals one way or another, I really think the Padres just line up nicely. I mean, the one team I think there's only one team that doesn't check one of those boxes, and it's the Brewers. And right now it doesn't look like the Padres would really run into the Brewers because I don't even know if the Brewers make it out of there. If they're on opposite sides, I don't even know if they get to the finals against each other. So I think the Padres have the easier path to go further. So if you're asking me who goes further, give me the Padres. But at the same time, I do think they both win their first round matchup, lose their second round matchup. But if John just came back from the future and told me one of these teams went to the league championship, I would assume it was the Padres. Now, with that being said, if John comes back from the future and tells me one of these teams won the World Series, I'm actually taking the Orioles. I'm going based on the fact that I think the Padre path is easier. But at the same time, if the Orioles do figure it out, John, I hope they're listening to John. Listen to John, Baltimore. He's got it correct. And if they can master that plan, it's going to be hard to beat. They know which games they need to win. They know the other games. They can just try and win 13-11. Just don't get cute. Honestly, they'd be better off if they're up 2-0 in the first series. Whoever's pitching game 3, let them go 7 innings no matter what happens. Just let them get shelled. Who cares? Just don't get cute. Don't use 9 relievers in a game. Don't do anything dumb like that to try and just to lose a game 4-3 in the 13th. Just win your send out your studs and have them win. Mash the rest of the way. And Baltimore could be very successful. I just think if they get into a mashing bout with the Yankees, I would have to take the Yankees at this point. Fair enough.
I have one thing I want to point out before we conclude this episode. I don't know the exact amount of games that are left, but based off of current records, this is going to be the first time since the COVID shortened season that a team is not going to have 100 wins.
Huh.
Yep.
I didn't even know.
And that's kind of that's kind of crazy. But to me, that's good because it's showing parity in a way. These teams all seem so much closer this year on the top than they have in the past few years, where there's just the Dodgers are blowing out the National League. And the Yankees and Houston are on top in the American League, and the Braves as well for the National League. It's nice to see that it's much more competitive this year in that aspect. I agree with you guys that Baltimore will most likely get past their first round opponent, but when they meet the Yankees, that's going to be their downfall. Most likely. But if they're able to get over that hump of the Yankees, the sky's the limit for them. And so I would be, if I have to pick between those two, it would be the Padres as well for me.
Yeah, I think I would love to see those two find a way to be in the World Series together. I think they're very comparable.
So fun to watch.
Very comparable teams. Kilroy, I want to just touch on what you just said there about the 100, and I think this is a good note to end on here. We've made so much fun, and that's a collective we. That's baseball fans of America have picked on everything that Manfred has done and the MLB has done so much. But part of that, parody stems from some of the things they've done behind the scenes. Remember, it wasn't that long ago you got to play your division rivals 18 times. If the Astros got 54 games this year against the Angels, the Athletics, and the Rangers, what you just said might not have been true. And again, not to sound like too much of a get off my lawn guy, but there is also the sort of the MLB's social structure. Guys aren't going 30 starts, anymore. Guys aren't going 150 games anymore. And so even if you have the best team on paper, you're not necessarily using that team anymore. So part of it is internally cultural, but I will give Manfred credit for spacing out the schedule the way he has, adding that rotating interleague play, having your division rivals less. That's happened in recent memory, and that's done a lot for making the league more parity driven, where you have to play everybody not everybody, but over the couple of years you play everybody.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Tell us who you have making it into the playoffs and who you have on the outside of the bubble. We'll catch you guys next time.
Love you guys.